What's up, everybody? Doc Dark 1985. There's levels to this. All right, real quick video. Game Pass does not need great games. I'm going to say it again. Game Pass does not need great games. Game Pass needs games that are good enough to keep people subscribing and to keep people subscribed. Games that are good enough to bring people in and to keep people. That's all they have to do. Now, before you lose your thinking skills, let me say this. Just because Game Pass doesn't need great games does not mean that Game Pass doesn't have great games. Because the reality is there's a lot of great games on Game Pass. The problem is that fan base on the other side doesn't want to give Microsoft any credit at all. I was on Reforge Gaming today. Shout out to my man Lono and 30. And he expressed how he wants Xbox to succeed and to create, great games. And I believe him. I believe him. But I don't believe a lot of you out there that have shown your hands already. That when Microsoft does do something that's good, does show something that's great, it doesn't matter what they do, you're never satisfied. So now I know where you're coming from. I know that you're being disingenuous. I know you're not being honest. You don't want Microsoft to succeed. And that's why you can't give credit where credit is due. When you're looking at Game Pass, if I was to mention A Plague Tale Requiem is a great game, which it is, the first way that you're going to knock it down is say, oh, that's not an Xbox first party. It doesn't matter. The whole point is that it's a game accessible on Game Pass. Game Pass doesn't need first party, AAA, great games. It just needs great games, good games to keep people subscribed. But the problem is that the great games that are already in there, you don't consider great. That's the problem. Hi-Fi Rush, whether you like it or not, it's a great game. Hi-Fi Rush is better than Forspoken. I don't know who I got to tell that to. I don't know who I have to sell that to. But because it's on Game Pass, or because it looks a certain way, you always find a way to knock it down. But if Hi-Fi Rush was a Sony exclusive, oh, believe me, they'd be riding all over it. Oh, the ponies will be galloping all over it. But because it's on Game Pass, and the problem is that there's a threat with Game Pass in the whole gaming industry, people want to knock it down. A Plague Tale Requiem, again, a great game. Hi-Fi Rush, a great game. Scorn, a great game. Gunk, good. Deathloop, good. Halo Infinite is a great game. Now, if you want to argue about the free multiplayer, that's up to you. But as far as the campaign goes, Halo Infinite was a great game. Forza Horizon 5, great game. But again, it doesn't matter what Microsoft does because to that other fan base, it'll never be good enough. It'll never be good enough because they can't admit it. Game Pass. If Game Pass is killing the gaming industry, don't be mad at the consumers that like Game Pass. Be mad at the publishers and the developers that are doing business with Microsoft and putting their games on Game Pass then. But the reality is that these publishers and these developers know that as much as you want to claim that you're a real gamer and you're a hardcore gamer, you wouldn't buy their game. That's why all these great indie titles have to go to Game Pass because you wouldn't even look at their game. If the gaming industry goes down because of Game Pass, that doesn't fall on me. I've been clear since day one. I love Game Pass. I'm doing it for my own selfish reasons. A lot of great games that I get to play, old and new on there. Great games. And the difference between me and you, Pony, is that I don't need your validation. So even if you don't agree that a game is great, like Scorn, which I'm sure you won't, doesn't even matter. There's other games on Game Pass that I haven't even played yet. Like Pentiment, As Dusk Falls, Trek to Yoming. There's games on there that I haven't even played yet. Pay attention to what happens. If this Activision deal thing doesn't go through, Microsoft, it's still the burden on Microsoft to figure out how to keep us subscribed and how to keep people coming back. But understand this. They don't need great games in the service. They just need games that are good enough. But the fact that there are great games in the service, that's a problem. Sony needs Redfall and Starfield to fail. Because if Redfall and Starfield succeed, let's say they blow expectations out of the water, which is going to be hard to do, especially for Starfield, because Starfield has been put on such a pedestal. The burden is going to be on Sony to prove why they can't put their great games on a subscription service. Dog 1985. There's levels to this. We out. Peace.